Hi there, welcome to Darlene's Creative Studio. Today I'm going to be working on a Matchbox challenge. I am a member of the Canadian Bookbinders Guild from Canada, and they sent out a Matchbox challenge, and they wanted us to create a little matchbox. Now this is made of cardstock. And they gave us a little printout of it, and it has all kinds of lines and shading on it. So when I printed it on the cardstock, it had all kinds of shading and everything on the actual paper that I cut out. So I created the matchbox, and then I thought if I want to create it out of scrapbooking paper or anything like that, I don't want to have the pattern. So I just measured it all out, and that's what we're going to work with today, is just my measurements rather than the actual printout. So I've written down the instructions here, and there's my little images to show you how to do this. And we're going to get started because this is a lot of fun. So what you're going to need for this, you need to make it out of something sturdy. This is very thin cardstock, and it worked perfectly. You can use cardstock scrapbook paper, which is what I'm going to show you how to make the matchbox from. You can use thin watercolor paper. I also made a matchbox using some scrap watercolor paintings that a friend of mine gave me. If I was going to make some tags out of them, and instead I have made tags, but this is one piece that I've made a little matchbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a challenge out there on my Instagram, on my Facebook, and to my Shoreline Artist group, and on my YouTubers, to create a matchbox, any kind of matchbox out of anything you like, and then put something in it. So they've asked us to, and this is their challenge, the matchbox is to be filled with a piece of art, craft, nature, such as a sketch, painting, photograph, print, story, poem, book, knitting, handmade or marbled paper, sculpture, origami, a stone or a shell, just about anything else you can think of that would go in a souvenir box. So really you're making the box and then putting something in it. So I'm putting this challenge out there to all of the crafters that follow me and all of the artists that are in our group to make this little matchbox out of whatever you like and then put something in it. If you're a potter, make something that will fit inside. If you do fabric or you do driftwood, create something that you can put inside this little matchbox and leave it on display. So we're going to get started, and basically all you're really going to need is some glue, scissors, a ruler, a pencil, what else? I'm using little binder clips to hold the flaps down to dry, because with the watercolor paper it's thicker and it doesn't quite grab as quickly. I do have a scoreboard, but you do not need a scoreboard. You literally can use the edge of your scissors. If it's got a round edge, you just want to be sliding along the paper to make a little score mark so that when you go to fold it, it will fold on that line. You can use a knife, you can use a bone folder, you can use a stylus, which is what I use right here. And you can just use a ruler and a pencil to mark out the markings. So we're going to get started, and the first one I'm going to make is this little matchbox here, and this is the double-sided scrapbooking paper. Pretty simple. So you're going to need 2 pieces. The long strip is 2 1/4, and it's by 5 7/8 long. The little body part is 4 inches wide by 4 1/2. And when I'm talking about this little square piece and we start cutting everything out, I hold it so that the 4 inches is across the top. So if you have a patterned paper, it's not really going to make that much difference because it's going to be on the bottom of your box. But if you have a patterned paper, it might be better to have it so that the pattern goes this way, so you know that you're holding your 4-inch edge upwards, if that makes sense. The strip, because this is just patterned paper, if you want something specific to be right on the front of the box, you're going to have to figure that out because it does wrap around the box. So you want your image to be somewhat in the middle of this strip if you're going to have an image, and I'll show you the other one in a moment. So basically you need those sizes out of a piece of paper. Now the other one I've made, and this was one of the watercolor paintings that my friend Joanne gave me. Hi, Joanne. And this is what I've created. So the strip was the top part of the painting, and it had a little lighthouse on it. So that's my top piece, and you just push that out. And this is probably 140-pound watercolor paper maybe. So there's my little cover case. The base is made out of the bottom portion of the paper, and this was the sand and some, I guess, the bottom half of the beach. And then inside the little box, I used the scrap piece of paper that was left over from the bottom part to create a little booklet, and I've just put some sketchbooking paper in there, and I've sewed it with some embroidery floss, some blue embroidery floss to match some of the water and stuff that was on the little booklet. So that will go inside my Matchbox, and there we go. So as I was saying, so this is another painting of Joanne's that she gave me. So this is like the little, this is how it was all put together. So I'm going to cut my strip, the 2 1/4 by 5 7/8 out of this part, and I want the little lighthouse to be on the front of the box. So I want to make sure I have enough on either side when I do my measurements to have that show up in the middle. This will be the bottom of my box. Oh no, this will be the bottom of my box. And then I have this scrap piece of paper, watercolor paper left over, and I can make myself one of those little booklets out of that by just measuring the 3 by, I think it's 1 1/4, no, 2 inches high or something like that by 3 inches wide. So I've got enough here left over to make a little booklet. So I'm going to show you both of them. We're going to start with the strip, and we're going to lay the strip onto the scoreboard. And again, if you don't have a scoreboard, use a pencil and a ruler. And this is our measurements. And I will measure them here. So we need to, so across the length, the 5 by 7/8 length, you will mark and score and then fold at 1 3/4, 2 3/8, 4 1/4, and 4 7/8, and then you should be left over with a little 7/8 piece on the end. So that's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to score at 1 3/4. There. 2 3/8. 4 1/4. And 4 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. And I will turn it this way. I don't know if you can see those score lines, but there's my edges of my box. These 2 little pieces there, and 2 little pieces there. And then this will be the top of my box. Now I'm going to make it this way. So all we're going to do is fold, 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 and fold like that. So when we wrap it around our box, and I'm not going to glue this until we make the box because we're going to actually fit this around the box and then glue it. But that's going to be your casing. So if you're going to do something out of watercolor, you want to make sure that and it doesn't really matter which side you start on, but I'm going to start at this side. So I want to make sure that my little piece, my little lighthouse, or Joanne's little lighthouse, is going to be in the middle. So I know that I have to cut off a little chunk off of that watercolor paper. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to start with my measurements, and then I will score that for you so you can see that. So I'm just going over to my cutter here, and I'm just going to cut this off, and then I'm going to cut it to 5 7/8. So I cut that little piece off and that little piece. Now this, I may be able to use that for my book. So there we go. That was the top piece. So I'm going to save that piece. Delete that. So then this is where I would score. We're going to be doing it the same way. So we're going to be doing it at 1 3/4, 2 3/8, 4 1/4, and 4 7/8. And this is pretty thick watercolor paper, so you don't want to push too hard, but you do want to make those score lines And then you just simply fold, and I will use my bone folder to make those creases even better by like that. And I'm only going to do the top ones. I'm not going to do the side ones in case I have to wrap it around the body of the box, and this fold might be a little bit off. So that will be my casing with the little tiny lighthouse there. So there's our 2 pieces for that. Now let's work on the body part. Again, we have our 4-inch piece, and I put it 4 inches by 4.5. So we want the 4 inches facing up. For that one, we have to score around all 4 sides at 1/2 inch. And again, you can just measure this out with a ruler, but I'm just going to go at my 1/2 inch like this. And I literally just turn it all the way around. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. There. So I have, and I don't know if you can see that, but I have score lines going all the way around. Now the next set of score lines are going to be at 1 1/8, because that's going to be, so what we're going to have is a 1/2 inch on the outside flap, and then there's going to be a 5/8 inch flap on the inside. So we've got our 1/2 inch done, and we're going at 1 1/8. So 1 1/8. When I score that, no, that's wrong. Now I need 5/8. So there's 1/2 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it is right. 1 1/8. Just didn't look right. I'm going to score there. Turn it. And with scrapbooking paper, you don't push too hard because you will go right through the paper. And I'm just scoring it enough to make a line. So now we'll have 2 sets of lines going all the way around, and you won't be able to see it, but there's a little tiny square right in the middle, and that is actually the base of your box. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold those lines. So there's I'll show you the size of the box. This is the inside line. So there is your box, and then you're going to fold the other line on the other lines. And we're just doing this so that you can see them, because we're going to be cutting away some of the corners, and you want to be able to see those score lines. All right, so there we go. So now you need your scissors. And what you're going to be doing on this box is cutting away an L shape off of each corner using your score lines as your guide. So I'm cutting along that score line, and I'm going to cut this little first piece off there, and that piece off there. So I'm cutting all these little L shapes out. And I'm just using the score lines as my guide. Of course, I use the darkest paper ever, so you won't be able to see my score lines. But again, this was just scrapbooking paper that I had in my pile that I wasn't sure what I was going to do with. It wasn't really something that I would decorate a journal with, so score line there and score there. Okay, so we've got all our little L shapes cut out, and holding it at the 4 inch going this way, and 4.5 inches, or sorry, yes, so 4 inches is this way and 4.5 is this way. Then we're going to cut up this little triangle on that score line to the next line. So there should be a little tiny flap there, and there's a score line going across here. And I'm just going to flip it all the way around, and we're going to do the same thing. And the picture does show that. So we've taken these pieces out, and now we're cutting down those little flaps. So there's my little flaps, and then I'm just going to angle these flaps a little bit, because they actually will get so I'm angling it toward the corner. So there we go. So we have these little flaps, and then you should have 2 lines here, and those are your sides. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Next, we're going to need your glue and your binder clips. So what we're doing is, I'm going to flip it over. We're going to pull those two little flaps in, and we're going to fold our sides up, our long sides up. So see how those little flaps go in? And then we're going to bring that one up, and we're going to glue those little flaps to that, and then flip that one over. So what I do is I put a little bit of glue on the outsides of these little flaps, and a little bit of glue on the top flap. And then all I do is I make sure these top ones are pushed back so they're out of the way. And I bend that little piece up, and then I bend that piece over. And that's why I have these little binder clips, because I want to grab one corner and hold it there while I push the other one in place. And you just squeeze it like this to make sure it's square. And put your little binder clip there. You won't need that if glue grabs really quickly. And then again on the other side, these are so easy to make. I know it looks complicated, but they're not. A little bit on the top flap. And again, those two little flaps go in. I'm going to fold up my side. And then I'm going to fold over my flap. Like that. Make sure my other one's in there. And then I'm just going to put these little binder clips in to hold them. Like that. And you just want to make sure it's nice and square. Give it a little squeeze. Make sure it's square. And just let that sit for a minute. And then all you have to do is put a little bit of glue on this flap and flip it over. And there's your little box. So we're going to let that one dry. And I'm going to use my other one here. And we're going to mark those. Now this, you have to be careful. This is pretty thick paper, so I'm not too worried about putting my stylus through it. So it's 1/2 inch. Got instructions on this side, and 1 1/8. 1 1/8. Turn it. Oops, see that one? Just watercolor paper is so thick. You have to be careful. It has a mind of its own. There we go. Turn it. 1/2 inch. Just go slowly. 1 1/8. And turn it one more time. Oh, darn. 1/2 inch. And then 1 1/8. Slowly. There we go. It's so thick that it has a hard time going through that. And again, I'm just going to bend it a little bit on the inside. Now this, I will use my bone folder to score those flaps, because this is thick watercolor paper. So I'm just going to move this guy out of the way, and I'm just going to score those down, or bone fold those down, the creases down, so that they hold, because that is really thick paper. All right, like that. And now let's cut out our little L shapes. And if you fold all of your lines, it'll make your creases show a little better, because this is really thick paper and it's hard to see the lines because it just barely made that indent on the paper. All right, good. So we're going to cut out our L's. All right, and there's my crease. And again, take your time. It's not hard to do. Let go. And again, I crease it again just to see where my little mark is. And there's my L shape. And even if you want to, you can cut these little flaps at a tiny, tiny angle to make it better to fit inside the box, inside the body of the box. And cut that one out. Let's cut this one. And this one. I'm just going to make a little bit of an angle on that one, and a little bit of an angle on that one. That will just help it to go inside. Okay, and I want to make sure I'm holding it at my 4 inch this way, and then I'm going to cut up that score line, flip it around and cut up that score line, and then we angle these little ones. We're just taking that corner off, so when we tuck it in, it's not hitting the top. Okay, so there's all the pieces cut from our watercolor paper. Now, let's see if these guys are dry. They should be. This is Fabri-Tac glue, and it goes pretty quickly. So then we would put glue on these flaps. And again, just flip it in. Grab your little binder clips to hold it. And the same with this one. And again, that little tiny bit of an angle stops them from rubbing against the edges of the box. So there, that's going to dry just like that one. And then this one, we're going to fold these flaps in like that, so that when we fold these up, you want to fold these guys back a bit so they're out of the way. And then we're going to put glue on those and then just flip them around. And this is thicker paper, so I'm definitely going to use binder clips for those. I'll grab my little bowl of binder clips. They're my third and fourth hands, so I always keep a little bowl handy. So you're gluing on the 2 little tabs and one up on this one here. Flip it up and flip it over. And we've got a binder clip. And put that on there. And we just want to make sure that that is in and square. Now we're going to do the other end. Your little tabs, your little flap. And you want to flip them over. And just before I put the clip on, I want to make sure I push that edge right in so it's flat against there, and I put my binder clip on. And then I do the same for the other side. You want to push it in and make sure it's square, and then put your binder clip in. And we'll let that guy dry. Let's see how this guy's doing. So there's your little box, the bottom part of your box, and then you're going to take your cover and you're literally going to wrap it around your box like that. You've already done all the folds and marking and everything, and then you're going to hold it on there and glue it. And the reason I'm doing it that way is because then it'll fit around the box. If you glue it and then try and slide it on the box, it's really tight fit. So I just make sure it's in there nice and tight and that it fits. And you just want to make sure you push your sides in because they are jutting out a bit. Slide the box out. And then I'm just going to put a binder clip there and a binder clip there to hold it and let it dry. See, it's nice and square because you've pushed all your edges in. So we're going to let this guy dry a little bit more. Let's see if that held. Looks like it did. And then I'm just going to put some glue on these flaps. Turn them in. See, that one needs to hold a little bit longer. So I will put some more clips on there. Binder clip, binder clip. And I will do this one. Oh, that one has glue on it. What am I doing? And my little binder clip. So if you use watercolor paper, I suggest you use the binder clips because it's pretty strong stuff. So there's the bottom of the box. It has some of the rocks and the water. And then the top of the box, I will fit it around here. And I'm just going to, I don't want to crease it too much. I'm just going to show you this really quickly and then I'll put my clips back on. Yeah, see, it's got a hold. But then you're going to wrap your, and because the watercolor paper is thicker, that's why I suggest you don't try and put these together without first. And see, my ends are sticking out a little bit because it's about bowing a bit because you gotta let it dry. So then you're going to do the same thing. lots of glue here to hold it. I've got it about where I want it. I'm going to slide that out. Oops. See, it's not holding. Come on, box. Out you come. There we go. Should have let this dry a little bit more. And my binder clips. And this I would let dry before I try and do my cover. I want to make sure all this paper sticks to the edges. So I would put these back on, just let them dry properly, and then you would do your outer cover. Like that. And this one dries fairly quickly. Scrapbooking paper. So you have your bottom of your box and the top of your box. And there's your little matchbox. And then there's the other one. And then for inside of this, you're going to need something that is, let me just put my ruler in here. I would say about 2 1/8. So I'll mark this on my paper. 2 1/8 inches tall. So I could trim a little tiny bit off of that. And then I need something that is 1 5/8. So maybe 1 1/2, let's say. So that's 3, plus I want about a 3/8 spine. So 3 3/8 is what I need for the width of my book. Okay, so I'm just gonna trim this down a little bit to 2 1/8. Cut that off. And I'm going to do 1 1/2 and 1 1/2 is 3. And I want a 3/8 inch spine. So there's my little piece that I'm going to make my book out of. And then I'm just going to take my stylus. And I know the book has to be 1 1/2. Make sure I got the right one. It's 1 1/2. And again, this is thick paper, so go very slowly. And then I'm just going to flip it the other way and do 1 1/2. See, it's really thick paper. Like that. So you have 2 little score lines there. And then I'm just going to fold it. Get my bone folder. And push that down. And then fold it on the other line. Give it a good rub. And then now I have a little tiny book that has a 3/8 inch spine. And that will fit inside. I think I'm going to add a little more glue to that. It must have dried before I got my clips on. So my little book will sit inside the box like that. So there's my little book. And then all I do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put a little mark there and a little mark there. And that's where I'll use my awl, and I'll punch some holes, and I'll create some. I have 2 little signatures in this one. So this one has, see, it's a little book this width. And I've just punched 2 rows of holes. And I just did 5. You can do 3. You can do 1/4 of an inch from each end and then 1 in the middle. You can just do 3 stitches. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, 5 holes. So I would just put this on my punch, and I would make a little template out of paper and punch my holes in there, my 5 holes. And then when I have that little piece of paper, I would fold it right on the hole lines, and that's what I would use to set inside my signature and punch the holes in this so that they are exactly the same position. So that is my little watercolor Matchbox book. Let's see if this one holds a little. Yeah, that one held a little better. I think I just let it dry before I glued it on. So my little book will fit right inside there. Let's see if this guy fits on. Hopefully it does. Watercolor paper is pretty rough, so it's hard to put. Yeah, there we go. So there's my little cover. And there is my little matchbox. And it'll have a journal inside. So I'm putting that challenge out to you. I'm hoping everyone will make a little matchbox, come up with some unique ideas of what you can make it out of. You can try hardening some canvas and making it out of fabric, but it's better to try the cardstock. But make your little matchbox and then do a little video or take a picture. So take a picture of your matchbox, and then your second picture should be where you've got your box open and you've got your souvenir or your little collectible inside. So I'd love to see if you could post that. I'm going to do a hashtag. I'll try and come up with a hashtag. That'll be on my Instagram, and I'll put in there if you can hashtag Matchbox Challenge, Darlene's Matchbox Challenge. I'm not sure exactly what the hashtag is going to be, but I will put it underneath the video, and I will put it on my Instagram as well. So have some fun. Looking forward to see what you create. Bye for now.